And I call this the back to school era in September. And we are lucky to have Fidesium here, Bok and Abe, the co-founders of Fidesium Security Crypto Company, to give you guys a little bit more specific context. It's a company that empowers you to independently research crypto projects before becoming part of them and investing your funds. Allow Fidesium to handle the challenging task of scrutinizing on-chain data and connecting you with projects that align with your risk profile, potentially helping you steer clear of rug pulls and other fraudulent schemes. Fidesium offers comprehensive risk assessment and analytics of every contract in your transaction chain or possible crypto investment. It furnishes a concise risk profile report concerning their held assets for businesses and individuals. Fidesium offers essential security and information required for all Web3 transactions, creating a secure and user-friendly environment for purchasing, sending, receiving, managing, swapping tokens, and collecting NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain. So that's the full intro for you guys. I cannot think of something as needed, especially with all this meme coin kind of, crack addict gambling that's going on in the space, and kind of bad habits and dark side of crypto. And I'm glad you guys are kind of bringing the light to it. So how do you get into the space, guys? How do you get into this field?
So I think me and Abe started around the same time, long before we met each other. I had some friends that were some original Ethereum miners back in the day. I took way too long to listen to them. So, but about 2018, I got in and started playing around. As I'm sure everyone else has, clicked on a couple bad links here and there. Lost. I think I'm currently down around 4 to 6 thou. So honestly, not too horrible for some of the places I've visited, but.
Nib, how about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I got into the space actually for the first time very, very early. I was mining in like 2011, 2012. Unfortunately, I did not have a brain in here, so I didn't keep any of those assets. But I've been in and out ever since then. Got in earnest during this last bull run. 2021 was it? I genuinely don't even. A couple of years ago, as everybody else, made a lot of money, lost a lot of money. I'm an order of magnitude above Bok. I'm in the 5 figures. And yeah, really wanted to help keep the community safe and help other people avoid the pitfalls that I made and avoid the scams that I fell for.
So that's my next question, guys. This is feels like a very mission-driven company. It is not safe out there in crypto. I think we can all, agree on that. And I think everyone's lost trust of the space. I think we've slowly recovering it over time. So what you guys are doing is, so how do you guys come up with this mission and vision for Fidesium?
So the original kind of brainchild was Abe's, just purely around the security end and, what could be needed more than, think back to old school Windows, Norton antivirus, McAfee, that level of protecting yourself from malicious scripts, those type of attacks. But then we kind of brought it out. We want to see the community grow. We want to see the ecosystem do great things as a whole, truly decentralized, trustless peer-to-peer trading. And to do that, it's just got to be safer. If we want to onboard the next million, billion users, right? We need to have this kind of safety. And so then we're took a larger look at what is needed. And, as they always say, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. So Web 2, when payments were kicking off for the internet, no one trusted it. Certainly not, my parents, my grandparents, my aunties and uncles. And PayPal really solved that. And how they solved it was by being a trusted name that made sure your funds stayed safe, that offered you some kind of assurances that if you were sending your dollary dues over the magic wires, that you would either get the services you paid for, or you could claw that money back. Now, as we all know, clawing the money back is probably not something anywhere in the near future, but making sure those exchanges happen, they're trustworthy, taking the malicious scripts out, and making sure that like the project as a whole isn't just, a pump and dump, a shill game kind of thing. I think that's something we can really help with, and that we believe will go a long way towards making the space more approachable to regular users.
Completely agree. And to get more into the questions and specifics of how you guys deliver on that mission, what kind of reports your risk assessment tools generate in simple terms when someone is trying to kind of assess an investment?
Yeah, I mean, look, in a nutshell, what we do is we generate a number from 0 to 100 and 5 or 6 bullet points about the kinds of risks you might be exposed to. There are some drill downs available on our web app as well. We can really look deeper, but fundamentally, it's a easy to understand, easy to use dashboard. We really have been focusing on risk explainability. And the risks we're looking at a high level are cybersecurity and contract risks, and kind of FinOps and AML risks like liquidity distributions, whale distributions, historical wallet behaviors, and your traditional FinOps risks.
Okay, intercept and block malicious transactions, which is one of the things that you provide. So how does the business model work? Does someone have to give you access to their wallets and log into the wallets? How does the execution work for the user at a granular level?
So couldn't be easier. Go download the extension. It's free. We think giving back to the community in this way is needed and just overall good. Download the extension. Once the extension's installed, doesn't need to connect to your wallet. It just protects you. You go to any swamp, it intercepts the transaction hash. We run a simulation. We do some static analysis on the contract. If any of that is flagrantly malicious, like gonna drain your wallet, a host of other scams, we just throw up a giant red warning. Do not do this. So it acts quick, protects you at point of transaction. And then on top of that, you can go to the research tool. You can look up stuff. If you choose to connect your wallet, we're happy to let you using Wallet Connect that everyone uses. We can't do anything to it, but that gives you a further level of safety and security if you want to look up an asset and purchase it through Fidesium.
Okay, guys. So I hope everyone listened to that carefully. This young company is really, really preaching what they or practicing what they preach. So go check out their tool. It's free for you to use and start, looking. If you're gonna gamble and you're gonna go into this meme coins or whatever it's gonna be, don't get rug pulled. Use Fidesium. Safety first before you get enter into these transactions. And they're being kind enough to do it for free to help the community. So guys, go check it out. My other kind of question is, okay, so what kind of risk are you assessing when your tools are used to analyze and score the risk of an entire transaction? So what are the things that you look for in your assessment?
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of touched on this a minute ago, right? There's broadly 3 buckets, really. There's contract and cyber risks, there's FinOps, AML, counterparty risks, and there's social risks, right? So the contract risks are somewhat self-explanatory. In a nutshell, smart contracts are code. Code can be malicious. Think of an antivirus or indeed a virus. We automatically read the code of every contract you're about to interact with and notify you of any vulnerabilities, flaws, malicious or otherwise. On the FinOps and ML side, we look at who the counterparties are, so deployer wallets, whales, liquidity providers, analyze their behavior, their history, tell you if any whales are trying to hide themselves by deploying to multiple wallets, tell you if the deployer wallet has been associated with any known scams or just suspicious transaction flows, use the mixer, for example, or touch sanctioned entities. We also look at just raw market metrics, volume, market cap, liquidity, kind of the ratios between them. There's some fairly complicated economics math in there, but in a nutshell, we try and make that judgment call for you. And on the social side, we look at off-chain data sources that might be harder to find. So obviously there's DEX tools, CoinGecko, there's also Telegram, Twitter, and other social profiles, web hosting, that kind of thing, to identify really the realness, for lack of a better word, of the project which you're about to interact with, right? Is it all fake traffic being driven through bot farms, or is the Telegram channel a real entity, for example, right?
This is interesting. And do you recommend, okay, obviously when something is kind of a DEX listed project, this is perfect for. What about, more even launchpad based projects? Do you recommend also running like
Absolutely.
this type of processes on those?
Absolutely. So we talk a lot about Dexes and projects listed on Dexes because it's an kind of an easy entry point and something that everybody in the community, or most people in the community, have interacted with some familiarity with. But ultimately, a launchpad contract is a contract, a liquidity locking contract is a contract, a lending protocol contract is a contract. We do not discriminate between types of contract. We do not discriminate between types of assets, tokens, NFTs, more sophisticated wallet abstractions, whatever. They're all smart contracts, and we treat them all the same.
Okay, so that actually brings me to my next question. Something you advertise is analyze every contract you interact with. What do you really mean by that?
Yeah. So when you look at a transaction, you might be thinking, so when you buy on Uniswap, let's just keep it simple for the moment, right? You're actually interacting with a sequence of smart contracts, right? So there's the Uniswap router that you hit with the initial transaction, which then under the hood calls out to another contract, the liquidity pool contract, which in the case of Uniswap v3 will call out to another contract, which is the specific NFT contract, because liquidity pools on Uniswap v3 are NFTs, etc. Now, this is a chain. Uniswap is probably, not financial advice, do your own research, probably going to be safe. But if you're interacting with other smart contracts out there, chances are that they themselves interact with smart contracts within your transaction. What we mean is we simulate that entire flow and look at every single contract you're hitting. Because a very common way to scam people is to make the top level contract that everybody looks at very quickly be sensible, but under the hood it calls another contract which steals your money in one way or another, right? So that's what we refer to when we're talking about the chain, the transaction chain, and every contract within it.
Okay, very interesting. And okay, the next one, also to dumb it down, you're getting very technical, Abe. If you can speak as as if you're talking to a golden retriever,
I might
that'd be
excuse myself from this
small
one. My apologies. I might just take a step
I'm
back.
I'm just kidding. Right. So simulate transaction for potential threats. What do you mean? What does that mean as well?
So basically what we do, super simple, is we run the transaction in a fake environment that cannot execute against your assets. We run it, we see what it does. If it doesn't do anything malicious, we say, oh, hey, it passes this check. As simple as that. So we just let the contract run and we see what it tries to do, but we do it in a RPC node, just a separate closed environment, so it can't actually do you any harm.
And in hindsight, obviously, it sounds like all of this would have been useful with all the booms and busts everyone in the industry is familiar with, Terra, Luna, Celsius, BlockFi, or the FTX coin. I'm talking actually more of just traded assets, right? So could this have been used for the FTX coin or the Terra coin, which I guess at the end of the day that was flow token design? So would this have helped?
Terra's an interesting one. Probably not. We could have raised some red flags around the whale distribution. So one of the things Fidesium does look at is it goes out and looks at who's holding the coin and how much of it they're holding. And there is a significant risk if too much of the coin is held by singular individuals. So we do take a look at that. We could have raised some red flags. I'm not sure we could have predicted Terra. We're not really up to prediction quite yet anyway. But with Celsius, yeah, looking at the traffic and even FTX, as the algorithm matures, we could see those, let's call them suspicious movements of funds between entities and, amounts coming in, amounts going out. And we could raise some serious red flags that, not everything is Jake under the hood. And that's where we really want to beef up.
Okay. I have any projects that you guys want to give red flags on a public forum? Just kidding. Just kidding.
We're not that brave.
I don't want to put you in a tough spot. I'm like, yeah, what do you think about just kidding. This layer or that layer, just kidding. Okay, so what are the services that, because you guys are young, you guys are finding product market fit, you're releasing product into the market and finding use cases. So what is, what's the future hold? What are some of the things you will expand into?
Oh, okay. So what we're looking at now is coming up very soon is being able to assess the risk of your entire wallet. Then we eventually want to possibly allow alerts. So while we won't alert you of, price fluctuation, we could be running active scans and allow and send out alerts when the risk on a set asset changes. So protect your assets at rest by continually checking the risk profile of the assets you hold and giving you alerts so maybe you can move before things collapse. Furthering from that, one of the things we really want to do is once we prove our score and we are very, very confident in it, we want to be able to offer insurance. So at point of transaction, insure your transaction so that if it does turn out to be a rug, you're moving fast, you're picking up that latest, greatest piece of dog money, and you're just not thinking clearly, you can insure your next button click against catastrophic failure.
Okay, that makes sense. And something, again, very, very, very needed for the space. I have two more questions. One is, who are your competitors and what's your differentiation against them?
So depending on where you're looking competitors wise, there are a few good ones out there. Pocket Universe, Fire, both do semi-similar things. They run the simulation. We go a bit deeper into the static analysis on the contract and checking all the contracts in the chain. And then we go way deeper by having this more holistic view of the transaction. So going into the socials, going into the liquidity, going into the whales, really looking at things, not just code, that could negatively affect your transaction. And that's our, 10x on those guys.
I completely agree. You need to look at the social channels and communities because there can be a lot of red flags there that can alert. It's not just the contract and the code, right? It's got to be the interactions and the quality of the people in a project.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Like a new project comes out, if they happen to be shilling on, 5 of the channels that are responsible for the last, 30 pump and dumps that have gone through, yeah, that might be information that's nice to know.
Absolutely. And my last question is, okay, guys, we all know it's kind of a tough, environment for crypto in general. I think things are getting better, but I like to call it a builder market. We are a talent network at Bondex. We're attracting the next generation of Web3 builders. What is your advice for a career in Web3 right now in this builder market? One answer each.
For me, oh man, given how disjointed the space is, clear, consistent UI for me. I think that's one of the big hurdles for new people coming into the space. Everything's so different all over the place. You got to connect up like 9 different things to, support your new latest, greatest favorite project. It's getting better, but I think it still has a long way to go.
Well, Bog, what do you think of our app? I know you're in my network because you use my invite link.
Dude, I love it. It's clean. Your UI UX guy deserves a hearty pat on the back. I won't say raise. I don't know where you guys are on that point, but he deserves
appreciate that
major accolades. It is
we've definitely I completely agree with you, and so we've made a big effort there. I hope our abundance appreciate that we're good UI UX and intuitive user experience for them. And Abe, how about you? What's your advice?
Look, my advice is going to be, I'm coming at it from an engineering background, so my advice is going to be fairly engineering focused. But I think that the advice really can boil down to just, if you're interested in building the space, just start doing it. There's a lot of problems out there that aren't solved. It's a young space. It's a maturing space. If you are in the space, you've probably run across things that don't work the way you want them to. If you're an engineer, fix them. And if you don't know Solidity and you're it's not that hard a language. If you know another programming language, you'll do fine. And B, there's lots of work in the space that is Solidity adjacent. people building front end, people building servers. If you're uncomfortable jumping in and starting Solidity, get a job as a web dev in a Web3 company and train up. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen.
And
I
make sure
appreciate
to
it.
post your resume on Bondex so
And
everybody
yes,
can find you and hire
make sure
you.
to post your resume on Bondex and make sure to use Fidesium when you play in the space.
Yes, so that's my last thing, guys. Where can we find you? It's Fidesium, FIDESIUM.xyz. Go download their extension before you keep your trading going on. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. I really appreciate it. We'll have all the notes in the resume on our link on our YouTube channel. Thank you, Bondes, for joining for another week, and thank you, Fidesium guys, for joining.
Oh, thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having
much
us.
for having us. This is great.